In a world where strength meant survival and giants ruled the battlefield, one young shepherd stepped forward with nothing but faith, a sling, and a refusal to be afraid. This is the story of David versus Goliath, not just a battle, but a moment that changed history forever. Our story begins in the Valley of Elah, where two nations stood locked in a bitter conflict, the Israelites and the Philistines. For 40 long days, they faced each other across the valley, a stalemate born of fear. Neither side dared to attack. Neither side wanted to be the first to lose. So the Philistines, growing impatient, sent out their champion. His name was Goliath. He was a terrifying sight, nearly 10 feet tall, a mountain of a man clad from head to toe in gleaming bronze armor. His spear was as thick as a weaver's beam, and his voice boomed across the valley like thunder. Every morning and every evening, he would stride out and shout his challenge, daring the Israelites to send a man to fight him, one-on-one. The winner would take all. The loser's army would become slaves. But day after day, his taunts were met with silence. The soldiers of Israel, even the bravest among them, were paralyzed with fear. No one stepped forward. Until David. So who was this David? He wasn't a warrior. He wasn't a seasoned soldier. He was a shepherd, the youngest of 8 sons, overlooked by his own family. His days were spent not on the training grounds, but in the quiet pastures, watching over his father's sheep. But don't mistake his youth for weakness. Out in the wilderness, he had faced his own giants, lions and bears that threatened his flock, and he had defeated them, armed with nothing more than his staff and his trusty sling. He learned that true strength wasn't about size or armor. David possessed something Goliath and the entire Philistine army could never understand: an unshakable faith and a profound belief that courage is unmeasured by height, but by heart. David arrived at the Israelite camp not as a soldier, but as a delivery boy, bringing food for his older brothers who were serving in the army. As he arrived, he heard the familiar, booming voice of Goliath echoing across the valley. He heard the giant mocking the Israelite army, but then he heard something more. Goliath was mocking their God. For David, this wasn't just about a military standoff anymore. This was a personal affront to everything he believed in. That was the moment everything changed. He turned to the soldiers around him, his voice clear and defiant, asking, "Who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God?" His words, full of a courage no one else could muster, quickly reached the ears of King Saul. The king, desperate but skeptical, summoned the young shepherd. At first, Saul refused, telling David he was just a boy, while Goliath had been a man of war since his youth. But David insisted. He recounted his battles with the lion and the bear, explaining that the same God who delivered him from their paws would deliver him from the hand of this giant. Seeing the fire in David's eyes, Saul relented. He tried to equip David with his own royal armor, bronze helmet, and a heavy coat of mail. But the armor was too big, too heavy, too clumsy. David couldn't move in it. It wasn't him. So he took it off. He chose to face the giant, not as a soldier, but as a shepherd. He walked onto the battlefield wearing his simple tunic, carrying his shepherd's staff, his sling, and a small pouch. On his way to the valley floor, he stopped by a stream and carefully selected 5 smooth stones. That was all. 5 stones against a fully armored giant. As David approached, Goliath squinted, then roared with laughter. The sight was absurd. This was Israel's champion, a boy with a stick. "Am I a dog?" the giant bellowed, "that you come at me with sticks? He cursed David by his gods, and promised to feed his flesh to the birds of the air and the beasts of the field. But David didn't flinch. His voice rang out, clear and steady, cutting through the giant's taunts. "You come against me with a sword and spear and javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. Today, this battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hands. Today, you will fall." Then, before Goliath could even take a step, David began to run toward him. He reached into his pouch, pulling out one of those smooth stones. He placed it in his sling and began to whirl it faster and faster. He took aim, and he fired. The stone flew from the sling with incredible speed and precision, a blur of motion through the air. It struck Goliath directly in the center of his forehead, where his helmet left him exposed. A stunned silence fell over the entire valley. The giant swayed for a moment, his eyes wide with disbelief, and then, like a great tree being felled, he crashed to the ground, face down in the dirt. The giant fell. That one moment, that one perfect shot, changed everything. Seeing their champion defeated, the Philistines panicked and fled in terror. A roar of victory erupted from the Israelite camp as they charged forward, routing their enemies, and David, the shepherd boy, the one nobody believed in, became a hero. He became a symbol of impossible courage, a legend whose name would echo through generations. He would go on to become the greatest king Israel had ever known. But the story of David versus Goliath is more than just a tale from the ancient past. It's a timeless reminder for all of us. It's a lesson that our greatest challenges, the giants in our own lives, whether they are fear, doubt, or seemingly impossible obstacles, can be overcome. It proves that courage, faith, and determination can triumph over any odds, no matter how large they seem. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of history's most powerful stories, make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel. And let us know in the comments which legendary battle or moment you want us to explore next. Remember, giants fall and heroes rise. Thanks for watching.